Hey guys, it's Brandon from Sasquatch B Studios. In case you didn't know, Ludum Dare is a game jam event where you have either 48 hours if you work alone, or 72 hours if you work with a team in order to create a video game from scratch focused around a central theme. Nikki and I were a team, so we signed up for the 72-hour jam event. This is the ultimate game creation competition. It tests how you work under pressure and challenges you to create something special in a really short amount of time, forcing you to stay focused and on point without overscoping and letting your idea get too bloated and unmanageable. 5,843 people signed up for the competition, and about 2,775 people managed to submit a game in the allotted time. So let's get right into it. How did we create a game in 72 hours, and what was it like? It all started with preparation. We're not 18 anymore, so I really didn't want this to turn into a pizza and energy drink all night kind of thing. I also don't like to work in a mess, so we cleaned the whole house from top to bottom. I had a feeling that during the event, any cleaning would get thrown to the wayside, so we wanted this done first. We went to the grocery store because we wanted to be as overly prepared as possible, and we didn't want to just eat crap for the whole weekend. We made enough meals to feed us for nearly a week and just froze it all. I don't really know why, because we ended up going out for dinner twice during the event because we were just dying to get out of the house for at least an hour and see other people. We got all of the weekend chores out of the way so we could put 100% of our energy into the jam. And we also made plans in advance to ship the kids off to the grandparents for the weekend for obvious reasons. And after all of this, it was time for the real prep work for the jam. We sent in votes for the theme. I liked maybe 20% of them. We went back through past Ludum Dare jams and played the top 5 winners from actually the last several events and took some notes about what made them good and what people were saying about them. We read the actual rules for the event. Kind of funny that we left that till one of the last things to do, but in the jam event, the 72-hour version where you can work with teams, you're actually allowed to use art assets that you already own, but Nikki actually created everything from scratch for our game. After our final vote on the theme, we actually brainstormed ideas for literally every single theme idea that you could vote for. There was literally only one theme that we struggled with and only managed to come up with one idea for. Everything else we had multiple ideas for. And finally, it was the day of the event. The jam started at 9 p.m. our time, but we had a full day of driving to do to drop the kids off at the grandparents', and several hours later, we arrived home from my parents' house childless. To kill the last couple of hours, Nikki and I went out for dinner, and then we went down to the lake near our house and took our dog Lexi for a walk. Finally, 8:59 rolled around. I screen captured but failed to get audio, but if I had managed to get it, it would have sounded something like this. Ah, no! The theme was... Hang on. The theme was... Wait, hang on. The theme was... Ah, no! Delay the inevitable. Delay the inevitable. All the work we had done on theme ideas was completely wasted because the theme, Delay the Inevitable, was literally the only theme where we had one idea for it, and it wasn't a very good one. We needed to go back to the drawing board, but we didn't have a whiteboard in the house, so... It is 9:09 p.m. Ludum Dare 50 started 9 minutes ago, and the theme is Delay the Inevitable, which is literally the only theme that we don't have any good ideas for. And now we're driving to Walmart because we realized, now that the theme has started, that we don't have any whiteboards in the house. And we need a whiteboard to get down some good ideas, so off to Walmart we go. We also got snacks. It wasn't wasted though, this trip, because we discussed possible theme ideas the whole way there, and by the time that we got home, we had actually landed on an idea that we were both really happy with. We were also already really tired, so was the clock apparently, but we continued on. We took a couple of minutes to get ourselves organized. I wanted to get down the very basics of what we had already discussed on our drive to Walmart before we both somehow lost it. So finally, we had a basic idea for the game. It was perfect, and we thought super simple and not too big in scope. The theme for the jam is delay the inevitable, so I thought, what two things in life are inevitable? Death and taxes. So the basic premise is that you are fighting off the greedy king's tax ghouls who are trying to collect tax on your inheritance, but you won't let them take it without a fight. It was an idea for a top-down game where you gain new abilities and a certain number of level ups. Little ghouls will rush your gold vault and attack it instead of the player. Easy peasy. We drafted up a quick story, which got more fleshed out later on the final day. And finally, I made a mini game design document for myself since I was the programmer on this project, and I have a scope creep problem, so I needed that document to make sure that I knew exactly what needed to be worked on and to not go above and beyond. And without even opening a game engine yet, we were satisfied, I thought, with the idea, and we went to bed. The next morning threw me for a loop a little bit. Nikki woke up stressed, really stressed about the art that she needed to make for the game. She only has experience working with creating art for side-scrolling games, for platformer type of games, and top-downs usually have a level of depth to the character and to the environment assets that side-scrollers don't usually have, literally because the camera is looking down on the game instead of sideways. Well, she told me this right before we were about to start working on the morning of the second day, and it was really important to her that we have a nice art style for the game. She really didn't want to try a new style when we were under a deadline for a competition. I internally panicked, thinking we were going to have to scrap our idea and start over from scratch, having nearly lost about 12 hours already. But in the end, we actually managed to keep the same story and idea and just translate it into a side-scrolling game. But this meant instead of simple just movement for the character, now it's a platformer, so I'd have to make him more mobile by giving him a jump, a wall jump, double jump, all of that good stuff. We didn't need any of that for the original idea, so I was stressing out a little bit about the extra work, but in the end, I think it worked even better as a side-scroller than it would have as a top-down game. But we had to get to work fast. So we made a really quick breakfast and scarfed it down, made the first of many coffees, and then finally got to work for real. I always start with player movement. I tried my own hand at player art, and I don't really think it turned out too bad, but I got all of the movement working as intended while Nikki made the real player art, which I guess turned out a little bit better than mine. She passed that art over to me so that I could animate it in the engine, and everything went smoothly for a while until I changed one little thing, and then this happened. I don't know what it is with character animations. It's one of my weaknesses, I guess. I almost always have problems for a good little while when I'm trying to animate the character, but I did manage to get it working well in the end. While I was doing that, Nikki got to work on making tile set art. Tile sets are really amazing, especially for jams, because once they're all set up and created, you can import them and literally just paint them onto a grid right into your level. It's one of the easiest and fastest ways to build a level for a video game, which is why they're so widely used for game jams. And at this point, we were really needing a break, so we went down to the beach and took Lexi for a walk again. You can't just sit in front of your computer for 72 hours straight. You need breaks, and my eyeballs had that pain that you get from when you're staring at your screen for too long. So this was a much needed rest for us. Once we got back home, I used Nikki's tile set and drew out the level. I also created platforms and coded them so that you can actually jump through them, through the bottom, but once you're standing on them, they're solid, so you would have to hold down and the jump button to go through them. I was pretty proud of that. I've never done that before. Then I animated the idol for the enemy that Nikki drew. They don't do anything yet, but they looked really good. And then I slapped a mini map into the top right corner of the screen so that you can strategize and prioritize where you need to be. And it looks like I got some UI done for the vault's health as well. And with all of that done, we called it a night and went to sleep.
Good morning. It's the start of day 2. It's 9:15 a.m. We got about 6 hours of sleep last night, and we're gonna spend the next hour doing a little bit of cleaning because our house got wrecked in just one day, and then we're gonna get back to work.
That's funny because we didn't clean. We got right to work after that. I got to coding out some actual movement behavior for the enemies so that they like actually did stuff in the game. I didn't want them to just storm the vault right away because that's really boring. It's overwhelming to the player and it's too difficult and unfair if you just have just waves of things come into the vault right away. So what I did is I made the enemies pick a random point inside the level border, move towards that point for a random amount of time between 0 and 30 seconds, and either once that time was up or they hit the actual border, then they would turn around and make a beeline for the vault and attack it once they were close to it. I created a quick script for handling the audio because Nikki made all of the sound effects that evening, and I managed to get 1 of 4 of the player abilities done by the time we ended the second day. It would have been more abilities, but really I had to nail down transitioning from one scene to another scene. That's not something I'm too experienced with, and it can get a little bit confusing, at least for me. So it took me several hours to finally have the game in a state where you could play a match and lose, go to the level up menu, get your upgrades, and then go into round 2 and keep all of the level data and all of that stuff, what level you're at, flowing from scene to scene. And despite the time, we needed something relaxing to end the day with, so we turned on the jets to soothe some pretty sore muscles. We needed some sleep because my wife was beautiful and pretty. We were getting strapped for time, but we needed some sleep. So we set our alarms to go off in 2.5 hours and then went to bed. So this was dawn of the final day, and at this point I was getting really stressed out. There was only 9 hours to go at this point, and I still needed to code 3 player abilities plus playtest the game, hope that it wasn't broken, hope that it was fun, and add in all of the sound effects and all of the polish that we had time for after that. So I got right to work on the second ability, while Nikki gave me more enemy types and background art to implement into the game. You can actually see a bug here where sometimes the projectile gets stuck under an enemy, but that has since been patched. I managed to get the fire towers ability and the vortex ability done with several hours to spare, which was really good because I needed those several hours. I was feeling some relief at this point because after a simple playtest, the game was fun. I found it fun, and that is good. If you're making a game, you want it to be fun. I'm especially really proud of the Vortex ability. It's really fun to use in-game, even though some people said it was too powerful. But at this point, we were really down to the wire, and I had a completely game-breaking bug that I had to fix. I was actually so stressed out that I forgot to record what the problem even looked like. What you're seeing here is a slightly less bad version of that bug. But in the worst one, if the player was halfway through an animation, when the scene cut and the next level got loaded, the player was completely stuck in that animation, in that pose, and they couldn't move or do anything. You were completely stuck, and the game became unplayable. And it took me nearly an hour to get it to the point that you can see it at now, where the player can still move, but the default position of his weapon had shifted for some reason, and that still was not ideal, but it wasn't game breaking. In the end though, I managed to fix that as well, and even got in some of my nice to haves, if we have the time, features like destructible grass, destructible spiders, screen shake, particles and effects, and just general game juice to make it feel even better and more fun to play. I built the game, I built a finalized version of the game, realized that I accidentally left the player abilities all unlocked from level 1, so I had to delete that, and then I rebuilt it, only to realize again that I threw together the grass so fast that I forgot to turn off collisions with the grass, so you actually had to jump over the grass. You couldn't walk through it. It's not what I wanted. So I fixed that, then built the game again, and we finally were able to submit the game with a little bit of time to spare. Well, we did it. I'm really tired. We did it. We submitted. It's not even 9 o'clock yet, but we got it done. I need a nap. At this point, it was time to sit back and watch other people enjoy playing the game.
Hey, the door's almost broken. Hey, don't kill the little babies. They're so cute. Oh, I love those guys. No way! We want level ups.
Yeah, Mommy.
Gonna get a new power up in a minute, Daddy.
Yep.
Mama, we're gonna win. I like your sound effects.
Oh my god.
And finally, we could leave our computer screens and be normal people again and get a good night's sleep, finally. This was really tiring, but we had an absolute blast overall doing this. We've gotten many comments from really nice people telling us how much they enjoyed the game, and they left us with some really constructive feedback as well. Universally, the game seems to be pretty liked, but there are a few glaring issues, like the player not really having any reason to leave the vault despite how big the levels were, and it was a bit frustrating to deal with enemies below the vault before you have any of the actual upgrades. So these are all valid and very, very true criticisms, and I wish that I had had more time to improve those areas of the game. I'm sorry to those of you who were frustrated by that, but 72 hours really flies by. I also wanted to give a huge special thanks to Jonah K for making the music for this game. He was amazing, and we would not have been able to pull this off without him. We've left a link to his Twitch channel down below in the description. And that's all I got for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. We had an absolute blast. We will be taking a couple of days off to recuperate, and then we're going to get right back into development for Veil of Maya. Please like and subscribe the video because it really does help with the algorithm. And if you want to play our Ludum Dare entry, can't text me, there is a link down below in the description. Thanks, guys.